So we've been exploring some different mechs in Battletech. And of course, weaponry is important, whether it's a light mech, medium, heavy, or assault. And one of the things that I was exploring in a question that I was recently asked, because yes, absolutely, I love the Marauder, I love the Warhammer. We were talking over on Twitter, Warhammer versus Marauder. And I was a little bit surprised. I kind of expected it to be 50-50, but most people were like, absolutely, Warhammer. Now, these are my two favorite mechs, so you can't go wrong. I can't go wrong selecting either one. And of course, given the battle value or lance composition, I'm going to take both. But I've been feeling the Marauder more as of late. I guess it's that long range of the two PPCs and the autocannon. And then if you close, I can switch to the lasers and the autocannon and do my best in Tabletop Glory to keep that heat under control. But it's hard to resist blasting off with two PPCs for that damage. But what we see here in both of these mechs is this idea of dual PPCs. And if we're looking at the inner sphere, the PPC is the most consistent damage dealer. I have to kind of capture that for a second. Yes, the LRM packs can do more in theory, but you have to, putting aside you actually have to hit, there's a different spread. The PPC has the range, and if you hit, you are connecting with that guaranteed damage per turn. But that comes with a trade-off. So it is the pinnacle of inner sphere tech, but that trade-off is going to be heat, which is massive, especially in some of the earlier inner sphere mechs, because there are heat management issues, although there are a few machines that can deal with the heat perfectly fine. But you're looking at also tonnage. And if you're playing the narrative, maintenance from that perspective, it's easier to maintain the optics of a laser. So this then jumped down to, well, if you jump down to the large laser, what are you really losing? Like large laser versus PPC, or if you were playing a Marauder and you were part of a mercenary company or a long campaign and you got both your arms blown off, you could take medium lasers off a lot of mechs. PPCs might be pricey, or you don't want to take it off if it's like a Battle Master and that's its only primary one. And what if you mounted in two large lasers? Is that drop from 10 points to 8, the tonnage and the range, that different? Certainly saving on the heat, exploring that. And my thought is, and part of this, yes, is big guns never tire. I like big guns, but there is a difference for the heat and the damage in both. 2 points is a big difference over multiple turns, especially if it's a light or a medium. I mean, although you could argue if you hit anything with a light, it's just going to explode. But against medium mechs, tagging 3 or 4 hits consistently, that could go to internals much sooner. And then when you go to internals, if there's ammo, if there's other critical components, I feel even when we don't look at range, it does make a tremendous difference. It's only 2 points. Absolutely. But the challenge here, of course, is the heat. And you could save more depending on the weapons configuration. Now, let's jump over to the T-Bolt for a second, because that kind of throws it on, kind of flips it over. And I love the Thunderbolt. I love the T-Bolt. It's a mech I regularly play. It's got fantastic armor. In the narrative, it's an early assault mech till technology was allowed to go higher in tonnage. And certainly in that classification, it's a tough mech. It's a beast type of mech. It has a variety of weapons. You've got the LRMs. You've got the short-range punch. But you have that large laser. And I always kind of saw that as, well, can we eke out a PPC? And I tried that a few times. Battletech, you can play variants. You could play custom variants. You could play the different configurations. You could play something completely custom on the chassis. That's part of the amazing aspects of the game. You don't have to be an Omni-Mech to swap things out. But in exploring that, what I found was, as soon as I made it all fit, and it took a little bit of creativity, as soon as I made it all fit, the extra damage threw off everything. The T-Bolt is starved for heat as it is. And as a heavy mech / assault type mech, depending on the narrative and the timeline, you are expected to be in a lot of places at once and dealing out significant damage. The reduction in points versus the heat turned out to be a big, big deal. Vastly different than when you jump up to some of the other assault mechs that would have a PPC and other weapons, but they also have the heat sinks to maintain that. So that was also interesting, where I think it also comes down to weapons configuration. And if you're using those PPCs as a primary weapon, Warhammer/Marauder, you're using that large laser as a primary weapon. The economy of and the question of what are your other weapons and how are you going to be called on to lose them? Phoenix Hawk is another great example, and Phoenix Hawk is a great mech. So that's kind of the equation I look. If it's like, well, PPC versus large laser, what is the configuration and what is the expectation of that role? Yes, damage is important, but going beyond just damage.